We're standing tonight at a spadim of the Gadol HaDor.
More says that when a tzaddik leaves this world, it's as terrible as the Sreifas Beis HaMikdash, like the burning of the Beis HaMikdash.
This is a very important gathering for the sake of Kavod HaTorah and the Kavod HaTorah which is in our community, to see such a large and overflowing crowd attend this davening, this tefillahs, the divrei hisorerus, the divrei hespedim, for Kavod HaTorah, for the Kavod of the Gadol HaDor, of a great Talmid Chacham. That says a lot about our community. And as a starting point, I think we need to give Hakaras Hatov to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the blessings that our community has grown so much in Torah that on a day's notice we have an overflowing Beis Midrash of people who are coming to pay respects to Torah, to Talmid Chacham, to learning, to Chochmas HaTorah, and everything that means. And when trying to understand what we've lost, what Klal Yisrael has lost, with the Petira of HaGaon Harav Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal, I think the place to have a look, to try and understand something of him, is the Svarim which he wrote. Because we need to try and understand who he was. Why is it that he captured the hearts and minds of Klal Yisrael, the Talmidei Chachamim of the world who recognized him as the Gadol HaDor, but also the people? I had the great schus on a number of occasions to go into to see Rav Chaim, and what struck me so powerfully on each one of those occasions was the long lines of people waiting to get in to see him, how accessible he was, and how he inspired people with so much love and admiration. You saw it in his Levaya, which was the largest, possibly, they estimate, the largest Levaya in the history of Israel, to see so many people, an entire country almost shut down to pay respects to a Talmid Chacham. What a tremendous Kiddush Hashem. What is it that moved people so much? And when looking at his Svarim, the answer came to me, and I'd like to suggest that if we look at the Svarim which he wrote a set of halachas Svarim, two sets of halachas Svarim, Shoina halachas, which is in essence a summary of Mishnah Brura. He goes and he summarizes Ohr Chaim in accordance with the Piska halacha of the Mishnah Brura, and he writes in his Hakdama. He's doing this to give people access, because people can learn through the Mishnah Brura, but to be able to extract the final Piskei Din, he wanted to provide that service. And then in his other set of halacha, the set of Derech Emunah, which is explanation of the halachas of agriculture affecting Eretz Yisrael. And he writes in his Hakdama in the introduction to that set, because essentially what he did is he took the Rambam on an area of halacha that people hadn't dealt with, poskim hadn't dealt with for almost 2,000 years because of the Golus. And he says, we're now returning to Eretz Yisrael, and now there are Jewish farmers and there's Jewish land, so we have to understand, what does the Torah teach us about agriculture? And he went and he set it out, his Sfarim Derech Emunah, he sets out based on the Rambam, and he explains in his Hakdama, not on the Shulchan Aruch, because Shulchan Aruch only touched very briefly on these halachas, because it wasn't Nogei L'Maisa, it wasn't Shayach, because of the Golus. And so he said, now that we're returning to Eretz Yisrael, and there are Jewish farmers, and there's land, and we need to know what the halacha is. So he goes through all of the Rambams, on all of the halachas of Leket, Peya, Shichacha, Kilayim, Matnasanim, all of the different dimensions of the laws of agriculture, and he writes this in Hakdama. He's pulling from all of the Mefarshim and the Yerushalmi, and the list of Makoros that he used to compile this, which is essentially a Mishnah Brura on the halachas of Eretz Yisrael, the list of svarim that he refers to, which are out of the ordinary svarim that he felt he had to refer to in the Hakdama, take up almost an entire page of the Hakdama. So you see, of course, the tremendous genius in putting that. But what drives the Hakdama, is also this point that he makes in the Hakdama of the Shona Halachas, which is, he says, people need to now know these halachas. So he's providing a service. You see again, he's writing these svarim because he feels Klal Yisrael needs these svarim. He's not writing it because as a HaGaon and he knew Kol Torah Kula inside out. He could have written a sefer or anything, but he chose to write his halachas svarim on things which Klal Yisrael needed. The humility of writing a summary of the Mishnah Brura, just to summarize it so that people have got access to it in Shona Halachas, and then to write this tremendous work on the halacha, the agricultural laws of Eretz Yisrael. That was in order to provide a public service. But the really interesting point is perhaps a side one, which he repeats in his Hakdama to Derech Emunah, and he uses almost the same lashon in his Hakdama to Shona Halachas. He says, Hineni choizer al harishonis. He repeats it. He says it once in the Hakdama, and then he repeats it, and he says, Shah sefer hazeh eino lifsok halacha lemaiseh. He says this sefer, and he says it by Shona Halachas, and he says it by Derech Emunah, is not to paskin out of. Because, in other words, what he means that is, it's not, you cannot take what I've written here as an authoritative instruction and a psak halacha. Ve'afilu mashu huva b'shem rabosenu hapoiskim. He says, even that, zal ein ze ela hatzos devarim. I'm suggesting it. I'm presenting it. I'm putting forward it as a proposal. And he says, if you're a Baal halacha, al menashe l'maiseh yishalu. Firstly, he says, if you're not a Rav, then you must go ask your Rav. Don't paskin directly out of this for yourself. And if you are a Baal Haira, you're a person who is a poisek, who can paskin, you're a Rav, then you must, as yachlit ba'atzmo, then you must make your own psak. You read this through, decide your own. So he said there are two categories of people learning a sefer. Those who are poiskim and rabbonim, so then you mustn't follow what I've told you here. Don't take what I've put here as an instruction. Work out your own psak halacha. And if you're not a Rav and you're not a poisek, well then go ask your Rav and your poisek. Don't take this as an instruction. So this is what he says in these two Hakdamas. I'd like to piece it together with something remarkable that he says in his Hakdama to his Musa Sefer Ohr Somayach, because you're starting to see a pattern here. Rav Chaim is saying here he doesn't want to take over the role of a Rav. If there's a Rav in the Kehillah, Rabbonim in Kehillahs, they must paskin, and if if a person is a Rav, then they must work it out for themselves. And then listen to what he says here in his Musa Sefer, Ohr Somayach. He says an amazing thing. He says, look, every generation, he starts by quoting in his Hakdama, he quotes the Gemara in Brachos, Lamed Beis Amud Beis, Arba Tzrichim Chizuk. There are 4 things that need chizuk in this world. Ve'elu hein, and these are they: Torah, the learning of Torah, Maasim Tovim, deeds, Tefillah, davening, the Derech Eretz, and good midas. These all things need chizuk, need constant reinforcement. And therefore, he says, because they do, therefore it's been the approach of Kol Gadol Yisrael that they have written Sifrei Musa to give chizuk. And therefore he's written this. And he said every generation the Chachamim need to come and again give chizuk, because the nisyonos, the tests and the trials and the tribulations and the challenges are different in every generation. But he says, look, and therefore I've done this. But he says, Va'af she'eni roi lomar musa la'acherim. But he said, look, I can't give musa to anybody. Who am I to give all of you musa? This is what Reb Chaim writes. He says, it's not fitting for me to give musa. And he quotes the Gemara in Bava Metzia, Kuf Zayin, that says you need to kshoit atzmecha, you have to first fix yourself before you can try to fix others. And he says, why? It's not fitting for me to give musa. And he said, I would never have written this as a musa sefer to give you instruction for musa, except that I haven't written it as that. That's what Reb Chaim says in his Hakdama. She'ein kan mishali. Nothing here is my own. Nothing here is my own. Rak likut oiris medivrei Chazal. And it's only a collection of the illuminating statements of Chazal. And if you look at it, he's got a list of 30 topics, arranged according to alphabetical order, and when you read it, what it really is bringing one statement of Chazal after another, Midrashim and Gemaras and Psukim and Rishonim, and all he's doing is being malaket. That's what he says, all he's doing. That's a tremendous chiddush, to be able, to put together 30 topics and then draw from all across the entire Torah Shebichsav and Torah Shebal Peh and order it, a tremendous work. But he says it's not him. He's just putting it here, and it's not for him to give Musa. And therefore he says, he's written it all here, and then he says an amazing statement. So he says, I've put it here, and hopefully, people will be able to find some benefit in this. So what you see here, firstly, you see here the tremendous humility, anova. Okay, and that we'll expect from a Gadol Sheba Yisrael. Anova is Pashut. This is the Rambam says it's the midah that one mustn't go even into the middle path. The midah, not the derech habeinonis, one must go to the extreme. So one would expect, of course, a Gadol HaDor should have anova. That I think is Pashut. But there's something else that's going on here. And that is, and you see it consistently, what he wrote in his Hakdamas for his Halachas Svarim, and what he's saying here in his Hakdama for the Musa Svarim. He doesn't want to give us the instructions directly, because he wants to give us the space to build ourselves up. Because as a Gadol, he wants us also to find our own greatness, to find our own godness. And if he is imposing, and he's there all the time and telling us what to do and how to do it, then there's no space for us. He gives us space. He's giving, what you can feel in his Anova is giving Klal Yisrael space to be able, so that we can build ourselves. This is the Chazal which says that the Talmidei Chachamim are called Banoim, are builders. It says Gemara Shabbos and Gemara Brachas, She'oiskim bebinyana shel olam. And Reb Shlomo Walby in his Alei Shur in the first Chelek, he says, what does it mean, Talmid Chacham is oiskim bebinyana shel olam? What binyan ha'olam, what building of the world is the Talmid Chacham involved in? He says, Rav Walby, it is the binyan ha'adam, to build up the human being. That is what the Torah is. The Torah is the Chachma of the binyan ha'adam. And the Talmidei Chachamim give us the Chachma of how to do it. But we have to build ourselves. We have to build ourselves, and we need the space to do that. And why Rav Chaim, I think, endeared himself to so many people is because he gave people, he believed in us, he believed in Klal Yisrael. He didn't want to take up all of the space, all of the oxygen, all of the light. He wanted us to have the space. He wanted Rabbonim throughout the world to have the ability to paskin for their kehillas, because they knew their people and they knew what was going on the ground. He wanted Balabatim to learn halacha, but then to turn to their Rabbonim. He wanted people to learn Musar, not as an instruction from on high, from Bnei Brak to a person in their heart, but every human being, every Jew needs to be able to learn the Musar and to build themselves. A true Gadol makes you feel great about yourself and doesn't make you feel inadequate. And he built up Klal Yisrael. The lines of people that are waiting to see Reb Chaim is because of his Hanova, because of his humility, but it's more because he saw their gadlus. It's like the pasuk that says, Va'ish Moshe Anav Mikol Adam, and the Mir Rosh Hashiva says, Mikol Adam doesn't mean from all people, doesn't just mean the most humble of all people, but Mikol Adam, from every person. Meaning the Anov of Moshe Rabbeinu is because he saw the gadlus around him. That made him an Anov. He could see the gadlus around him, and what the Torah does gives us the kalim to find and to grow and to develop and to build ourselves. And a Gadol HaDor wants to see Klal Yisrael flourishing. He wants to see communities flourishing. He wants to see Jews flourishing. He wants to see Jews learning Torah, growing for themselves, becoming great in and of themselves. And that is actually the midah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. That's why the pasuk says, Es Hashem Elokecha Tira, says the Gemara, Im Sachim Es L'Rabos Talmidei Chachamim. Well, how can it be Es L'Rabos Talmidei Chachamim, that it comes to include Talmidei Chachamim like the cover to Hashem? But actually it's the same midah, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, if he would not give us the space to grow, not give us Bechira Chavshis, not give us the space, not hold himself back, there would be no room for us ein oid milvado. And so then on a kivyachol, a Talmid Chacham needs to give space for his Talmidim, for Klal Yisrael to grow. Es Hashem Elokecha Tira, there's the sense of the Yira, the Pachad, the sense of the Gadlus, of a Talmid Chacham, of a Gadol HaDor, to have that space and to believe in Klal Yisrael. And that's what Reb Chaim did. He built us all up, standing in those queues, and I saw time and time again, at the time, just as I was starting in my position, I went to go see him. I got a brocha. He gave me chizuk at that moment and a brocha. And when we started discussing the Shabbos project, went to see him more than once, and he gave a brocha each time to mechazik, to give chizuk, to build me, to build all of the people who were waiting to see him. Queues and queues of people, young and old, learned and not, from all walks of life, because they were coming into his presence, and when they left his presence, they left uplifted, they left feeling better about themselves. A Gadol makes you feel better about yourself, makes you believe more in yourself to be able to grow and to develop. And that's his message to us in all of these hakdamas. He says, learn halacha, but then stand on your own 2 feet, find rabbonim, paskin, go to your rabbonim, grow in halacha, learn musar, make yourself your bal musar. He said, I'm not going to give you musar. Give yourself the musar. Grow yourself. I'm just going to give you access to it. I'm going to give you access to halacha. I'm going to give you access to the divrei musar. Then grow yourself. Es Hashem Elokecha Tira. Have the space to grow and to develop, to be oiskim bebinyana shel olam, to be involved in building the world. And building the world is building yourself. And so we are gathered here as a kehillah to pay respects to the Gadol HaDor on his Petira, and to join all of Klal Yisrael in every corner of the globe. What a tremendous Kiddush Hashem has been here and throughout the globe, the Hakora for Torah, where the world has literally stopped and taken its breath. And then what we take from that as a Kehillah, and the way that we can make a schus and an aliyah for his neshama, is to be inspired by the lessons that Reb Chaim taught us in his life, and that we should take upon ourselves the 4 things that need chizuk. As he says, the arba dvarim shetzrichim chizuk, and we must take it on ourselves to mechazik ourselves in these 4 things, the Gemara in Brachos, Torah in our learning of Torah, umasim toivim in our good deeds, in tefillah in our davening, with kavana, with kavod, and with derech eretz, and in the refinement of our midas and our menschlichkeit. Those are the things that need chizuk in our world more than ever. And as our tribute to him, we need to continue that process, and that should be a tremendous schus for all of Klal Yisrael, and that his Petira should be a moment of his oirus for all of Klal Yisrael, and that it should be a schus that we should see the Geula Shleima b'mheira b'yameinu. Amen.
Rabbi say, Mar says that when a tzaddik leaves this world, it's as terrible as a sreifas Beis HaMikdash, like the burning of the Beis HaMikdash. What is the explanation of that? Reb Chaim, Zecher Tzadik L'Kodesh L'Vracha, had a special name. There was a special tribute that was given to him all the time, and he was called Sar HaTorah. Not only a Gadol HaTorah, but a Sar HaTorah. And I found in the Sfas Emes and Sukkos at least 2 places where he speaks about Moshe Rabbeinu And he says that Moshe Rabbeinu is the Sar HaTorah. He's the minister of the Torah. V'zois habracha sheberach Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who gives the bracha to Klal Yisrael. And then bracha comes and it emanates from that he is the Sar HaTorah. And the Sar HaTorah, he says, is the one who possesses the midah of das. Atzeres tiyelachem hi hayediyah v'hu haTorah shenikra das. It's the Torah that's called das. V'hu me'olam elyon b'yoser. And it comes all the way from the highest place, the midah of das. Like on simplest Torah, we begin at Oreso Ladas. Moshe Rabbeinu is the manig of the Dor Deya, the greatest generation, the Dor Deya, the door of knowledge, and he is the Gadol, he is the manig, he is the leader. Sar HaTorah is an exceptional one and unique person, a very, very rare person who is Sar HaTorah, who mamish knows Kol HaTorah Kula. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, who has received the Torah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and knew the Torah like nobody else. We have someone so unique, so rare, someone that only comes in very, very rare situations, who's a Sar HaTorah. He's a minister of Torah. The whole Torah, he encompasses the whole Torah. The Gemara says in a number of places that one of the Amoraim said to the other, Moshe, Shaper Ka'omrit. Moshe, what you're saying is correct. Even though his name wasn't Moshe, but he's referred to as Moshe. Rashi says, Gadol HaDor, you're the Gadol of the Dor. And in Sfarim is written that there's hispashtis of Moshe Rabbeinu. There's an emanation of Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation. Certain people, there are emanations of Moshe. Moshe Shaper Ka'omrit. Moshe, you're saying very good. Rabbi Chaim would finish every year Bavli and Yerushalmi and Tosefta and Medrash, Shulchan Aruch. Every year he would make a siyum. I heard this. He would make a siyum in Erev Pesach. He would finish it in 12 months. And this year, he was able to finish it 1 month earlier because it was an Ibiyar. And it's incredible and unbelievable. And he was Nifter Mamish 1 month before Pesach. Rabbi Yeshua Hartman, so sein gesund, many of you know him, he was here. Wrote this a wonderful sefer on the Maharal with Mara Mekaimis. There's many, many sources. Rabbi Yeshua found the Maharal. The Maharal brings down that Chiyas HaMesim is going to come from Ohr Somayach. Chiyas HaMesim is going to come from Ohr Somayach. And he looked through Shas, he looked through Gemaras, and he couldn't find the Makar. And he asked many Talmidei Chachamim, what's the Makar to this Maharal? The Maharal doesn't give the source. He had the opportunity to go to Reb Chaim. He was walking with Reb Chaim from his humble home. And he turned to Rabbi Chaim and he's asked him, the Maharal says, Tchis HaMesim is going to come from Ohr Somayach. Where does it say? So Rabbi Hartman said, Rabbi Chaim started just thinking, it's not in Bavli, he's thinking a little more, it's not in Yerushalmi, it's not in Medrash, not in any of the Midrashim. He's thinking, it's not in Zohar. And then he said, it's in Tikkunei Zohar. Sar HaTorah, the das, the knowledge of Torah, our immense Torah, and it was on his fingertips. There's a very chashuv, a woman in Ramat Beit Shemesh. She sent out this message that she wrote that her perush was written by the Poltava Ilui in Poland. It's my husband's grandfather, Rabbi Tzvi Bronstein. And it was very difficult to get the perush out. They managed to get it out of Poland. This Ilui knew the Torah by heart, but he had no Sfarim when he wrote it. So when he wrote the Perush, he didn't write Mara Makaimis. They brought it to Reb Chaim, and Reb Chaim spent a long time writing the Makairis for the Perush. The amazing thing was Reb Chaim didn't look up anything. He simply wrote all the Makairis. There was a bris of a great-grandchild to be named after Tzvi Bronstein. And last year, 28 years later, Rav Chaim Zatzal was a sandik for this Rav Tzvi's son. It's just incredible. Sar HaTorah, the das of Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu of our generation, we have lost. And on a very simple, basic level, we know what is das. Das is not just knowing things, but das means to be completely connected to it. To be completely connected to the Torah. Yisrael v'iraisa v'kudsha b'richu chadu. Yisrael and the Torah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu all one. And therefore, you're completely connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, so sein gesund, brother-in-law of Rabbi Chaim, in his hesped yesterday, mentioned that Rabbi Chaim wrote a sefer called Karnei Chagovim. Chief Rabbi mentioned about the Sfarim of Rabbi Chaim. He wrote a sefer about grasshoppers. We know that some grasshoppers are really kosher. He wrote a sefer, whole sefer called Karnei Chagovim, the antennas of the grasshoppers. So there was a question about a grasshopper. Unbelievably, in the midst while he's writing the sefer, a grasshopper came from who knows where. Grasshoppers, you don't find grasshoppers in Bnei Brak. A grasshopper came on the windowsill. Rav Elyashiv Zatzal, the father-in-law of Reb Chaim, he was so amazed because Rav Elyashiv said that in Yeridea there's a shaila about a bird that has an extra finger, Koran I think it's called, and there's a machlokes Rishayim, and it says over there that the bird came to the Ri, I think it was. He says this is something that happened to Rishayim, that the Rabbeinu Shalom is Megala. He reveals what the subject matter right in front, And this was a person, Rabbi Chaim, that happened to Rabbi Chaim. Rabbi Yashav was amazed by it. But this was a person that we have to understand. It's not just we're talking about genius. We're not talking about just brilliance. But we're talking about that a person totally is immersed in Torah, the midah of das, where with the Torah HaKadosh, he's completely connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that everything in his life that he does is integrated from Torah HaKadosh. We're not talking about Lahavdil Elf Avdalas or some brilliant scientist. Well, we're talking about a person that's Mekushah HaKadosh Baruch Hu and is a tzaddik. And therefore, das, the connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when we have someone like this in this world, we have a tzinor, we have a pipeline from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to him down to the world. The Beis HaMikdash was this pipeline of HaKadosh Baruch Hu giving to us, bestowing to us, bracha to us, a serenisim that happened in the first Beis HaMikdash. The tzaddik is also this conduit, is this connection. I believe Rav Chaim had a stroke some years ago when he was doing physiotherapy. So the physiotherapist asked him to sign his name, to start writing. So he wrote his name on the top of the page. The physiotherapist was amazed. She never saw this. People always write their name on the bottom of the page, or in the middle of the page. She asked Reb Chaim, why are you writing on the top of the page? Reb Chaim said, it's a Yerushalmi. A person should never write his name on the bottom because then someone could fill in on top that he lent to $1 million. So you'll write your name on top. Everything was Al Pi Torah. And therefore, he was the address that everybody went to. Just like his father, Zatzal the Stipler, was the address that people went to. I remember my Rebbe, Yechezkel Levracha, when there was a Shaili, went to the Stipler. Chaim became the address. Reb Chaim was the one who would clarify. As long as we had Reb Chaim, there was clarity, there was knowledge, there was understanding. The Chazaynish writes in his Sefer Emunah B'Tocht, and the Chazaynish, the uncle, and he writes here, I'm quoting the English, the wise man prepares conduits in his heart and soul for the wisdom bestowed upon him, and through them wisdom flows to his heart and soul. A joyful soul and happiness of spirit, a thirst for wisdom and a hunger for understanding are what enable this flow to proceed. This is das, this is knowledge. The understanding, the wisdom is bestowed upon him. He has the clarity. When there's a suffix, when there's a doubt, so you go to Reb Chaim. When there's corona in Eretz Yisrael, do you open the schools? Do you close the schools? Open the Chadorim, close the Chadorim. Reb Chaim said to close, so they closed. Reb Chaim said to open, and they opened. This is das, this is knowledge. connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu bestows Deya. It was quoted yesterday also from Rav Zilberstein that there's a machlokes between the Rambam and the Ravid. Some of us are learning these in Yonim now about a hadassah that's cut off on top. Is it kosher or not? The Rambam says that it's kosher. The Ravid says, Haifiya Ruach HaKodesh bebeis hamedrash shalanu, that Nokdom is pasul. Ruach HaKodesh has appeared in our base medrash. That a hadassah that's cut off on top is pasul. Asks the Kapais Tamarim, Torah Leiba Shemayim Hi. We don't paskin halachas from prophecies that come from above. How could the Ravid follow? It says there's a Ruach HaKodesh that came from above. So he quoted from the Ksav Sefer that the Ksav Sefer says, but if someone learns Torah Lishma, there's a clarity of Seichel, there's a Behiris of Seichel, and Ruach HaKodesh, so we can paskin with Ruach HaKodesh, it's coming from the person's engagement, immersion in Torah Lishma. Do we have Ruach HaKodesh? Are there people that have Ruach HaKodesh? We don't have Nevuah, but there are people through the ages that have Ruach HaKodesh. As Rashi says, what's in Kisisa, Chachma, Bina V'dat, Vuna V'das, by B'tzalel, Das, Ruach HaKodesh. Can you imagine we've lost somebody with Ruach HaKodesh? When my mother was sick, I went to Rabbi Chaim, Zatzal, asked for a bracha. I gave him the name. I have a picture. And he's looking at the name with such concentration, with such intention. As the chief rabbi mentioned, so many people came to him and came to him with their tzaras. And he spent the time to take from his most valuable zmanim, to give chizik, to give bracha. To say, bracha asher berach Moshe, bracha that comes from Moshe, comes from the Moshe of the generation. How many people, so many people, coming to him for brachas, coming to him for chizik. Moiridik Maisim that have been coming out, I'm not going to be Marich. We see the Avos Yisrael, the love that he had to Yidden. Just one Maisa that just appeared, a fellow by the name of Simcha Weinman. He's a photographer, likes to take pictures. He said 25 years ago, he went to Reb Chaim, 3:30 in the morning, came in 3:30 in the morning. Reb Chaim wasn't wearing a hat. He was wearing a tal's cotton. And he walked in, and Reb Chaim was feeding a cat. 3:30 in the morning, he was feeding a cat. He took out his camera to take a picture. Reb Chaim said to him, please don't take this picture. But he already snapped the camera. And he took the picture. Reb Chaim said, don't take this picture. He snapped it. He felt so terrible. But he felt he didn't want to give the roll of film to Reb Chaim. So he walked out and he threw it in the first garbage can. 25 years later, his son is becoming bar mitzvah. And his son says to him, Abba, you know, a lot of my friends, they gotten brachas from Rabbi Chaim. It's my bar mitzvah. I want to get a bracha from Rabbi Chaim. So he lives in America. He says, okay. He comes into Rabbi Chaim. There's a picture of this. He comes into Rabbi Chaim. Rabbi Chaim looks at him and he says, Ich hab gewahrt 25 Jahre zu beten Mechila von euch. I've been waiting 25 years to ask Mechila from you. Who has to ask Mechila? That's the anova. That's the humility. That's the care. That's the concern. 25 years he's waiting, and he remembers this person after seeing so many people. That's Gadol, HaDor, Tzadikim. In this week's parsha, we learn about Nadav and Avihu that were burned. V'chol ha'am yivku es ha'sreifa, and everybody has to cry over the sreifa. The Baal HaTurim brings down shekol Talmid Chacham shemeis hakol nasa kroivav. Every Talmid Chacham that dies, everybody is his relative. The basic pshat is that we were all relatives. He cared for all of us. He cared for Klal Yisrael, cared for every Yachid. We're his Kroivim. But I heard a pshat in the name of the Aris Dvash that the Kroivim, the relatives, they inherit. Every Talmid Chacham, every person is his relative. Every single person has an opportunity to inherit from the Talmid Chacham. And especially at this time, I heard from my Rabbeim that when a person leaves you, when there's a preda, when there's a separation, that's when there's the closest kesher between people. And when a tzaddik leaves, like we find by Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, this form say that the day that he left this world, that's when the greatest Ohr of Torah was given over, because it was the time of Preda and the time of separation. That's when it's the closest. In this time right now, we all become his Kroivim. We could all take from him. We must take from him. The das of the world has gone away, so we have to fill the void. So first of all, the biggest lesson of Rabbi Chaim is that every moment was so dear, every moment was tire, every moment he was learning Torah, every moment he was performing a mitzvah. There was never any waste of time. Time is the most dear commodity that we have. And when we come together as a hesped in a time when a person is nifta, we have to realize time is limited. Chaim, his son, said over yesterday is that his mother, the son of the daughter of Rabbi Eliashiv, when he came home from Kailul every day, lunch was prepared for him immediately. Lunch was there. But if she wasn't ready, sometimes she wasn't ready to eat, he would wait for her to eat together with her. He wouldn't eat by himself. He would wait to her, derech eretz. He had derech eretz, and while he was waiting, he would be learning. He would always be learning. He would be using this man. He would be using the time. That's what we have to learn from him. Not to waste time, to use the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us, every single moment. And to learn from him how much we appreciate Torah, how much we should be machshav Torah and love Torah as he did. As the Rosh Hashiva last night also spoke, the importance of learning Musar, of learning every single day, learn Musar, Yerushalayim, and also with our children, to learn with them a little Musar every day, to instill in them, to realize that this world is not hefker, and that we have to follow the Rabbi Shalom, and we have to have Yerushalayim, to remind ourselves of this every day. Hakol Krayvim, we're all Krayvim. We all can now receive from his Hanhagis. May we all machazik ourselves. May we all strengthen ourselves in following the midas of Reb Chaim Zechatzaddik V'Chodesh L'Vracha, and that ask from him up on high that he should be mispalo. Klal Yisrael, there's so much sorrows. He should be mispal for Klal Yisrael now that he's close, so close, so close. Not even now wrapped up in a body. So close. Mispal HaKadosh Baruch Hu should end all the tzaras. We should intensify our tefillas. And we'll be Zeichem Yitz Hashem Taka. It should end Bilam Avos L'Netzach, U'Machad Dim Al Kol Panim. Kodesh Baruch Hu should take away all the tears from people, and that should be Zeicha Taka, Shiach Tzidkenu, B'mheir of Yameinu, Amen.